What's up everybody, it's Jay. It's probably Sunday. I say this every time I start a video, like it's probably Sunday, even though in reality it's probably not Sunday. It's not actually Sunday right now. I'm not filming on a Sunday, I'm filming on a Tuesday. Okay, so this week we're talking about slurs and language. So obviously from the very beginning, warning for use of slurs. I'm not just gonna chuck them around, but I'm still going to have to use them considering that's what we're talking about and that's what our topic is. I'm sorry I look like a wreck, I just went out to get a snack. So first of all, slurs. The first time I ever remember dealing with slurs is when I first came out to one of my best friends. And at the time I identified as bisexual and a trans man. Now I identify as queer and a trans man. And I remember at the time I told her that I thought that queer was very good as an umbrella term for the whole LGBTQ plus go on with your letters forever community, because that way no one was being represented more than anyone else. You weren't using any specific letters, so nobody was being excluded. Whereas she felt that it wasn't a good word because she'd been raised in a household where queer was a slur. And so I stopped using it for a while around her, just simply because I didn't want to make her uncomfortable, because she identified as queer as well, but I didn't want to make her, she identified as in the LGBT community as well. So I didn't want to make her uncomfortable by using the word. Well, I think she's grown more used to the word now, and she doesn't see it as a slur anymore because of how little she sees it used as a slur and how much more it's used as a definition. The second more personal time that I had to deal with slurs was when I was in a science class in school once, and we were doing the reproductive system, and nobody likes it, it's really gross, and as a trans person it makes me very uncomfortable because you're literally being educated on bodies in a very binary way, and I don't like it. Whereas a boy in my class, he's a very nice guy, he brought this up very respectfully. He brought up that a man had a baby, and I'd heard about this guy before. He was a trans guy, and he brought it up, and he brought it up very respectfully. He used the right pronouns, didn't use any slurs. But then another guy in my class said that he was a she-male and a tranny, and obviously this made me very uncomfortable, and made me feel uncomfortable in that class for weeks, because these are people I know. Somebody I know, and I knew they weren't a nice person, but I didn't think they'd go that far, but they did. And in school, in general, I hear the word faggot tossed around a lot. I've been called a faggot in school by random people. And in general, I do have to deal with slurs often enough when I am in school. And so that brings us along to the first issue of slurs. Is it okay to use these slurs in any circumstance? I think in circumstances like this video, where I am talking specifically about slurs, that you should be able to use the slurs rather than saying the Q slur, the T slur. You can just use the slurs, and people who are watching this video obviously have been warned of the use of these slurs. So it's okay. Is it okay to use these slurs under any circumstances? Well, for a start, I think you had to have had the slur used against you to be allowed to use the slur. For example, lesbians can use the D slur. I'm not just going to say the D slur. I'm not very comfortable saying that word. And trans women, more so than trans men, can use the T slur, and most any video, I'm pretty sure, has had the word queer used against them at this point in their life. But it's if the slur is used against you, then you are allowed to reclaim. What do you think of people self-identifying as a slur? I think go them. Like, that is like some extreme reclamation of a slur. And it's also like, it's extreme reclamation. Like, you are taking back that slur to use as your personal identity. It's strength, I think. Like, I see as like self-identifying as a slur, fair play. But like, it's as long as you're not appropriating it. Like, that's really difficult to explain. I mean, like, if somebody who was, like, let's say there's a woman attracted to other women, and they're a cis woman attracted to other women, and they identify as a she-male. Like, you lost me there somewhere. Like, if the slur has been used to describe the identity that you hold, you can self-identify it. But if you're taking a slur that's been used against other people and self-identifying as it, when that's not really your identity, then I wouldn't have said that you should be using it. That's a kind of confusing concept, and I kind of confused myself in the process there of explaining it, but I tried as best I could. And finally, can drag queens reclaim things like the T slur and the she-male and such? I've often, as I said before, I volunteer with the Transgender Teen Survival Guide as well. And for all intents and purposes, on that blog, we accommodate cross-dressers as well. But in my personal opinion, I don't see cross-dressing as under the trans umbrella. So I don't see drag kings and queens and such and other cross-dressers as trans or under the trans umbrella. Like, that is simply dressing up. At the end of the day, if you're a cross-dresser, you can take off your clothes. At the end of the day, drag queens take off the dresses, take off the makeup, take off the hair, whatever you got on you there, and they go back and they fall into their normal male lives. I remember I read that somebody else said that. I can't remember who said it now. Yeah, here it is. Who is it? Parker Marie Malloy. There we go. I'm sure drag queens have had the word thrown at them, but they have the benefit of being able to wash off their makeup, take off their dress, and fade back into their male lives. I don't have that luxury, and this is my life. This is my identity, not an activity and not a hobby. So, like, cross-dressers, particularly drag queens, don't identify as female. They identify as men, and they're dressing as female, or they identify as something else other than female, and they are doing drag. So, like, it's not their slur to reclaim, because they can always fall back into their cis male identity if that's how they identify. So I don't think personally that drag queens and cross-dressers are under the trans umbrella, or that they can reclaim those slurs. And feel free to disagree with me in comments, because that could be very interesting. But yeah, that's all I have to say about slurs. I'm sorry, my hair is really weird and it keeps falling on my face. But that is all I have to say about slurs for today. And well, if you like this video, you should probably, like it. And if you want to see more of our videos, you could subscribe. We make videos like every day of the week. It's amazing. See you next time. This week we are talking about advocacy. Why we became advocates. Why we're advocates on YouTube. Was there anything in particular that made us be an advocate, and are we comfortable being advocates?